The Bengals have invested heavily on the offensive side of the ball, handing out big contracts to Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. An offense that was ranked 7th last year in points per game at 27.8. The defense, though, bottom 7 in 24, giving up 25.5 per. Their best player on that side of the ball is pass rusher Trey Hendrickson, who's not at mandatory minicamp, wants to get paid like the best of the best at his position. But since he doesn't seem to want to meet his standards, Hendrickson didn't attend OTAs, skipping Cincinnati's 3-day mandatory minicamp currently being held this week. And Hendrickson subjecting himself to more than $100,000 worth of fines by missing all 3 days. He's been adamant that he won't play for the Bengals in 2025 under that current deal. He's a first-team All-Pro, led the league in sacks last season in a contract year scheduled to make $16 million. And have a $18.6 million cap hit. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. With that situation still in flux, the Bengals went and spent a first-round pick on Texas A&M pass rusher Shemar Stewart. Showed up to OTAs, didn't participate, though, in a single drill because he still hasn't signed his rookie deal. Here's what Stewart and the Bengals coaching staff have been saying this week, in which Stewart showed up for a couple of days and then left on Thursday.
Very bad. I mean, I've been doing this for most of my whole life, and then all of a sudden it's gone over something very simple to fix. It's kind of disappointing.
These things, sometimes they take some time, or they're more complicated than they are on their face, and we're hopeful to get this resolved in the next 5-6 weeks and get him out there. And really looking forward. I love the young man. He's had a great attitude. He learns really well. He's attentive. He asks good questions. So from that standpoint, he's doing everything we're asking.
Zach, is it a big deal he's missed out on on-field reps?
I think for all the rookies, you'd like them to be on the field, but certainly there's things that happen over the course of an NFL career, and this is one of them right now. So he's been in the meetings. He's been positive in that way. He's been learning. He's been a good learner, and we look forward to getting him back on the field quickly.
Let's welcome in our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones, to give us a little bit more of what we're seeing in Cincinnati. So we don't, JJ, think it's about the money, right? Because it's a pick, it's slotted. But why is the 17th overall pick at odds with the team that drafted him?
Yeah, it's fairly basic, Tommy. And this is a slotted deal, as you know, that is going to pay him roughly $19 million over the course of 4 years. You can set your watch to it. It's very easy to calculate. The issue for Shemar Stewart, for his representation, and to some extent the NFL Players Association, is the language within this Bengals new standard contract. And look, it is about default language. More or less, if Shemar Stewart gets suspended, if he does something wrong, if he makes a mistake, that in the past, the Bengals, for their rookie contracts, you would still keep your guarantees into the future. The Bengals this offseason changed that language to essentially say, if you get suspended for something, maybe even anything under the sun, we can then void your guarantees, not just for this year, not just for the upcoming season, but for the entirety of your standard rookie contract over 4 years. This is new language that the Bengals, and it was their right to put it in, but they did put it in. And so Shemar Stewart, his representation, the NFL Players Association caught this change. And so Shemar Stewart not only has not signed his deal, and look, Travis Hunter hasn't signed his deal for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but we have seen Travis Hunter play out here during OTAs and minicamp for the Jaguars. Shemar Stewart hasn't even signed his participation agreement. So somewhat unusual, but again, well within his rights to do that. Now, what was particularly unusual was him calling out ownership, like we heard earlier in the week. And then, of course, him leaving minicamp after showing up. Not sure that that ultimately is going to work out in his favor. And so what are the options ultimately for Shemar Stewart? He doesn't have many great options. You have to hope that the Bengals are going to budge, because Shemar Stewart's saying, I'm 100% right and I'm not budging. I don't know that the Bengals are necessarily going to do that, and they certainly aren't going to do it anytime soon. And so what happens if this doesn't get resolved over the next 5 to 6 weeks, as we heard Al Golden say? Well, the Bengals could trade his rights to another team that would be willing to change their own contract language, but that would have to be done by the first week of August. Don't really see that happening. The other thing is, Shemar Stewart, he could sit out the whole season and re-enter the 2026 NFL draft and have someone else pick him up. Not really sure that's going to happen. Look, we have seen it across sports before. You go back to Larry Bird when the Boston Celtics drafted him in 1978. He stayed at Indiana State and then signed with the Celtics on the final day that he possibly could to be the highest paid player on the team. We saw it with Kyler Murray, where he was drafted by the Oakland Athletics, got a signing bonus, toyed with football, and then ultimately, of course, was the #1 overall pick with the Arizona Cardinals. And perhaps the most famous one in all of professional football, John Elway, when he was drafted by the Baltimore Colts and let them know, I am not going to Baltimore to play for this team. And ultimately, a trade was engineered where he was sent to the Denver Broncos. So not unprecedented, but honestly, very unlikely, especially when you're talking about such a small clause that the Bengals are trying to change, that I don't know that they ultimately are going to change.
All right, JJ, don't go anywhere. We'll be checking with you with other things NFL related, but we appreciate you giving us the latest with Shemar Stewart and the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, we told you at the top of the hour we were going to dive into this from a couple of fronts here. So, by the way, if you're scoring at home, it means the Bengals sack leader from last year, Trey Hendrickson, and the guy they had to draft him and compliment Trey Hendrickson on the sidelines there for Cincinnati. We've got Andrew Ivins joining us from 24/7 Sports. So, Andrew, when you look at it, Shemar Stewart, an interesting situation, but it could be the first of many that we're going to see right now. First and foremost, give us some context of what the Shemar Stewart and his camp are entering this sort of situation with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, Tommy, I mean, he's a kid we loved throughout the entire high school recruiting process. You go back to the class of 2022, Shemar Stewart was our first #1 ranked player. Now, he got injured as a junior, fell to #7, but we thought this guy was a future first-round draft pick. And, you know, his name's in the headlines. Where my mind goes, his recruitment was kind of different. It was kind of all over the place. Early on, LSU was seen as the team to beat, right? Right before his senior season, he went on an official visit. He spent time in Baton Rouge. We thought he was going to end up being a Tiger. Well, next thing you know, he returns from the visit, and it didn't go well. And you hear these stories, all right? They didn't fly him first class. He wasn't. They didn't have the jersey number he wanted when they did the photo shoot. So Texas A&M, all of a sudden they emerged. They seemed like the team to beat heading into National Signing Day, but Miami hires Mario Cristobal. Shemar Stewart, he ends up sticking with the Aggies, and Jimbo Fisher, he's part of the highest-ranked recruiting class of all time, and he was kind of a forgotten man. He's the one that stayed in College Station. He's the one that ended up getting drafted so high, but the talent was always there. We always thought this guy could get it done, but if you go back to the recruitment, the people inside his circle, the ones that were making decisions, you always kind of felt like, hey, at some point this might come off the rails. Not saying that's what's happening here, but it was certainly an interesting one to follow with tons of twists and turns.
Yeah, you mentioned the interesting path here, and of course we're not trying to single out Shemar Stewart, but the situation is he's not yet with the team because of some language that his team found. What I do want to bring up is whether we might see some more Shemar Stewart situations because, and I don't know if the right term is financial freedom given the NIL landscape, but players have a little bit of money, a little bit of a parachute if they don't have what they like when they see some of these NFL contracts. Am I right?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, the college game is turning into the NFL game. You talk with personnel departments around the country at all different levels of college football. I mean, the schools at the top of the food chain, the schools at the bottom of the food chain. It used to be you're trying to win over mom and dad or whoever the decision maker it is. Now, when these kids go on visits and they're about to make a decision, on Sunday, you're not having breakfast with the family. These schools, these head coaches are having breakfast with the agents, right? And I think the facilities arm race, the waterfalls at Alabama, the slide at Clemson, those days might be far gone with the new revenue share, right? It's shifting away from, hey, we're not investing in our facilities because we got to pay these players. And I think, you know, Shemar Stewart's kind of one of the first ones that has been through this since he was a young pup. And he's been through the name, image, likeness. He's been in a locker room where guys have had to leave for more money and have been more interested in exploring their options. I talked with someone at Texas A&M. They said every year the thought was, hey, you know, Shemar Stewart might leave, right? Miami was the school that consistently came up. And, you know, from my understanding, Shemar Stewart was entertaining the idea of coming back in 2025, but his camp thought he was a top 5 pick. And now he ends up going number 17 overall. But certainly the players have more power than ever in this era of college football. And this could be something we see more of in the future.
Before I let you go, I just want to follow up, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just think myself and some other viewers want to know how many Shemar Stewarts are roughly out there, given what the NIL landscape is. Is it? Can you count them on two hands? Do we have a couple of dozen? I mean, what do you think in terms of what people expect if they see the situation again?
Well, Tommy, the name that comes to mind for me is like Jeremiah Smith. You talk with NFL scouts, you talk with college coaches. I mean, heck, Chip Kelly, who's now there in Las Vegas calling plays, he says if you took Jeremiah Smith, he would have been the #1 pick in this most recent NFL draft. He'd be the #1 pick next year. Hey, well, Jeremiah Smith, he's got to wait. I mean, we thought he was a generational talent coming out of high school, obviously an excellent freshman year. So, is it 10 guys? Is it 32 guys? I think it's a handful, but those individuals are out there. Shemar Stewart, kind of maybe the first one of this, but I've wondered in Jeremiah Smith's case, like, hey, man, it was Maurice Clarett 20 years ago that did it. Why hasn't Jeremiah Smith potentially thought about declaring for the draft? Because he, too, is a guy that's ready to go. So it's a smaller group. The thing is, Tommy, a lot of these kids, they think they are the next Jeremiah Smith. They think they are the next Ryan Williams at Alabama. They think they are the next Travis Hunter that can do it on both sides of the ball. So this could be opening up kind of the floodgates for us to see more of it.
It's a fascinating conversation, and Andrew Ivins joining us here with a little more context here on HQ. Andrew, certainly appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by.